So this is the start of Mr. Hilder's day. Lots of snow today. We're going to follow Mr. Hilder around on the homestead just to see some of the chores that he's doing. And he's starting off in his shop, and he said instead of shoveling, and this is kind of nice to have extra things on the homestead, extra equipment. And one of them is a snowblower, which we brought from Wisconsin, but it's in the shop. And Mr. Hilder's not too happy because he just got done saying, why is it every time he needs a tool, it's the one he needs that he can't find? And
all I want to do is take this spark plug out.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't get to it. You know, they just make stuff so that the average guy, you just got to have some kind of specialized mechanic shop.
Yeah.
And I don't have the extension to get my wrench in there.
Oh, no.
And even if I did, I'm unsure. This part of the shroud is in the way. So then you got to have more different tools.
Oh, no.
To take this, I got to take this whole thing off.
Oh, boy.
Just to get to the spark plug.
Oh, boy.
It's like, this is how they make things in America.
Yeah.
So that you can't work on it yourself.
That's the truth, too. That's what we've been finding. You know, this is the thing. It's going off grid. What's it about? It's about self-empowerment and being self-sufficient.
They don't want that.
But they don't. Yeah, they don't want that. So even
they want you to take it in so that you got to pay somebody, because
yes.
That's how our politicians say we got to keep the economy rolling. Pay.
Yeah.
Don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Pay someone to do it.
Yeah. Don't learn a skill.
Makes
don't
those
learn how.
numbers look
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's kind of the thing we preach about, learning skills and filling yourselves up with knowledge, because they want you to be dependent. They want you to bring your stuff in to be repaired. They want you to rely on others. On the grid. They want you to rely on the utility companies. They want you to rely on the water utility. And that's the thing about living off the grid. This is frustrating, but Mr. Hilder will figure it out. And
there's the three main things that you should be guaranteed. You need to be a mechanic.
Yep.
You need to be a carpenter.
Yep.
Thirdly, at this day and age, you need to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
You better have your wife be one, or you better have someone in your immediate family be one.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you just need those things if you're going to make it.
Yeah. 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 So this is frustrating for Mr. Hilder, but this is a good lesson for all those who are watching this video today about going off the grid and being more self-sustainable. It's a big thing. It is a big thing. It's just not about growing your own food and disconnecting from the grid and having your own power source. There's more to it than that. And we just didn't want to be enslaved also anymore to what people are enslaved to. How we're raised to be enslaved. We're raised to rely on others for everything. Everything. Your pipes break, you call the plumber. Your lights don't go on, you call the electrician.
I remember when we built the first house, and you have to, we had codes and inspections and so forth. And I'm not a professional carpenter, but I sort of look at this stuff and it's like I'm not a dummy, as lots of people think. And I just looked at basic construction from the base, the all phases of it, to the wiring, to the plumbing, to the et cetera, and I'm thinking, well, why can't I do this? This don't look like it's that hard. And granted, it's not easy. Usually the trick is you got to do it a few times to get it right. That was the part, doing it through the first time. Usually you screw it up and you're like, oh, that's why you got to do it this way or that way. You figure it out. And so obviously you can see the more you do the stuff, it's really not that hard. So I would ask people, I'm like, well, what about this, and this? Oh, you need to hire someone for that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm doing this myself. Oh, you got past inspection, I'm like, I know, I got the codes right here. I'm like, I read them. Just don't look that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing it, and then passed all the inspections, and I got to the electrical.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I was just intimidated. Luckily, I had a friend that had done this, so he came and got me going. He's like, you can do this. You can do this. All the hundreds of people I've talked to that said, oh, you can't do that.
Yep.
Oh, you can't do that. One guy told me, you can do this.
Yep.
he came over and he got me going. And then at the end of the day, I said, so what time are you going to come over tomorrow? He's like, oh, I got things to do. I'm not coming over tomorrow. You're going to figure this out on your own. And I'm like, oh, no, you can't leave me now. And this was part of how you learn. He's like, I'm a phone call away. You can do this. He says, you're going to do the same thing that we did today. I showed you the basics. But it's just intimidating because he wasn't there and I was scared, you know. So I did it, and I did have a couple questions, but I just called him and he talked me through it. He says, you know, this, and this. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And once you do it, it's just like, it's that invaluable knowledge that no one can ever take away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I may have to touch up, granted, when I do wiring, like when it came out here, I was sort of like, can't quite remember, so I got the book out, but it comes back much quicker.
Yep.
Same thing with the plumbing. I set up a radiant heating in my house.
Yep.
Everyone's like, oh, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
And I'm thinking,
you need to call somebody. So
I went to the place, and I was asking questions and this and that, and they're like, well, who's your radiant heating guy? I'm like, I don't know, me.
Yeah.
He sort of started laughing. Yeah. So I went home and I drew a plan on it. All I did is I took, and I drew on my floor.
Yep.
And because I had the pecs in the floor already, and so I just drew all the stuff up, and I'm like, all I'm doing is drawing a big circle from the boiler to that room, to whatever rooms you're doing, and you're coming back.
Yep.
And so you just got to have T's and controls and so forth. So I laid it out, and I'm like, why can't I do this? So I went back and I stumbled my way through and got the parts, and they did help me then because they seen I was going to do it. I put the thing together and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
You put in your own radiant heating.
I'm like,
and that was a huge project.
Yeah.
Project. It was huge.
It was, yeah. And
it's not little. This was not a little cabin that we were doing. This was a big home.
And I've worked with other carpenters and this and that, and I'm like, oh, what are you gonna do here when you get, say I'm helping them with something and we're getting to a closet and there's need to be put a light in there. Oh, we don't do that. We call electrical the guy. And I sort of look at it and I'm like, well, if you want, I can do this. This is not, you're just trying to put a light in the closet, right? And, because they just already have it that they just can't do it.
Yep.
And so they don't
call the other guy.
They don't even address it. And it's not that hard. I mean, you just got to, granted, you got to do a little reading and do some stuff.
Yeah. But I think we're raised and trained to think that, if that's not if we don't have that skill and we're not in that profession, we really are raised to be dependent on others. And, and this is the point of this lifestyle. You're not relying on others. This is what we're trying to preach. It's like one day you're not going to be able to pick up the phone and call the plumber or the electrician or, and that's why having these skills, they lead you to believe that you can't do it.
Right.
And you can. You can. I mean, we could tell you stories. It's not just the electrical that we learned and the plumbing, and we built our own house, but even like financially, people said that, financially, you can't, buy your own stock. You can't invest. You can't day trade. You can't do any of that stuff. Mutual funds. That stuff is for the experts. You need to get a financial planner. You need to get a stockbroker.
Yeah,
and I said,
so they can get some of their money.
Yeah, so they can make money. And so what did I do? I'm the book person. So I read all the books, everything about. Yeah, I taught myself how to be our own financial planner. And that's exactly what happened. I knew in fact, when I went to whatever it was, Edwards Jones, they wanted to hire me because I knew more than their financial planners who had taken the test. And I'm like, no, I don't want a job. I was just picking their brain to see, what they knew. And I knew even more than them. So, and that was just because I empowered myself with teaching myself. Because I'm like, you know what? We're not going to pay anybody to control our money. They don't have a vested interest in our money. They don't. They're there to make money and to make their commission. And it doesn't make any difference if you make money or don't make money. They're always going to get paid. Yep. And as soon as we figured that out, we're like, the only person who has a vested interest in us is us.
Yep. So
we need to take the bull by the horns and learn this stuff. And we did. And that's the point of how we live off the grid here. And the other point is, choosing an area where, community-wise, if there is something that we really don't know, we're in a great community where there are people who have trades. And even Mr. Hilder, like with harvesting wood, you remember when you went up and you met that old timer and he gave you all some of those tips about cutting down trees and
simple stuff.
Simple
'cause
stuff.
I'm not a professional logger, but I've believe me, I've cut tons of wood. And then he just showed me a couple simple things like cutting all those little stubs off with your saw this way.
Yeah.
He's like, no, don't do that. He goes, those kick back into your leg, and then you come home at the end of the day and you get big bruises on your shins and stuff.
Yep.
Never really thought about it. He says, you just always zip this way, so when they catch them, they fire them off that way.
Yep.
Just little things like that the guy's been doing it for his lifetime.
Yep.
He can, you may have the basics down, but he's going to show you the tricks of the trade.
Yep, exactly.
And so it's just that, you just keep learning.
Yep, yep. And those old timers, they're a wealth of information because they had to do it themselves. That's the thing. These old timers had to do it themselves too.
My old-time friends that I've met are dying off.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, it's just like I went to call my buddy. This old guy, he's like 80, when I used to hunt back in Wisconsin. And cool guy, logger, born and raised, just a super cool guy. I just really like this guy. He had sort of quit hunting, and then when he met me, because I'm so enthusiastic and so forth, and I knew the same spots he did, or I should say, it was funny talking to him, because I'd sit by that pine tree, and he'd be like, yeah, I used to sit by that tree. He'd sit in the same places I'd sit when he was younger. So we just like, oh yeah, and it rekindled him, and he started hunting again. Well, then I moved, and the guy was, he's like, you're really going to move, huh? And I go, yeah, I just, it's not here for me. I want to get out with the big country and less people and so forth. But he had lived the bulk of his life in good times where I lived, And so I shot a buck here the other day, and I hadn't talked to him since last year. I didn't really talk to him because he can't hear on the phone. I talked to his wife, and she relays it. But he gets all excited, and you can hear him. He's jabbering in the background. And I called and got his wife on the phone. I said, yeah, this is Mark out in Idaho. And I could tell right away by her voice something wasn't right.
Yeah.
I said, I wanted to tell you guys got a big buck and wish you Merry Christmas and so forth. I figured Jimmy would get all excited. And she's not saying nothing. And I'm like, don't tell me he's not here. She says, oh, Jimmy passed away in September. I'm like, come on. And I knew, every year I would call.
Yep.
The guy's not going to live forever.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going to call her one day and he's going to be passed away.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yep.
And so, you one by one. And I told that guy when I met him, I said, you need to write a book.
Yeah. Because he takes that with him.
The guy took so much with him, stuff that he explained to me that was fascinating.
Yep.
Fascinating about the old days.
Yep.
Woods lore and logging camps and
all the stuff he knew how to do that people just don't know anymore. Now. It's gone. Yep, that's a whole generation that is disappearing, and I think what we do here off the grid is we're trying to hold on to that. Yeah. That basic living that our great grandparents and used to do, and that's and for someone like him, it's once it's gone, it's gone. And that's the sad thing, because I know we live in a whole different world, and it's so electronic and it's all virtual, and there's nothing virtual here. We want to keep it.
Guy, he was never on a computer a day in his life.
Yeah. Oh, they don't know.
Never on a computer.
Yeah. I don't think you know what a computer was. Yeah. So. That
was my hero.
Oh yeah. So we in honor of Jimmy, I tell you, we want to keep it as basic as we can here, and live the simple life. So that's our video for today. I don't know how we got in the subject, but we're posting it. It'll be a good advice video for all those who need a little advice about this type of lifestyle, and that virtual world is not going to feed you. This type of living is. And look, Mr. Hilder's getting all his ice fishing equipment out, so he's getting ready. Snow's flying. Another season.